Karina, thanks so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, first of all, I have to congratulate you on an amazing win, your first professional squash title down in Texas. What an unbelievable achievement, especially during this whirlwind of a year.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, it was amazing to win as well. Yeah, it was just such a great tournament. I'm hoping there's going to be more in the future, in the near future, because now I'm like on a like I have momentum now. I kind of want to play more, but yeah, I'm super happy to grab my first win.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about the process of getting there. Obviously, this hasn't been a traditional year. And now, maybe if it was, you might not have had the opportunity to play. And so, what was that process like entering the tournament, going down there? What expectations did you have for yourself as well, entering the tournament?
I mean, so I came back to Philly in January. I and I wasn't really expecting much. Like I was kind of like maybe I'll stay here for a month or so. I moved to Egypt essentially during the fall term to just train and just to improve. But like the online time difference, it was really just not productive. It wasn't healthy. I wasn't sleeping enough, so I was like, okay, I'll come back to Philly. Then I think we found out about the tournament maybe in February. So I was like, okay, I got my membership at the Racket Club of Philadelphia, which they were really, really helpful with. So I got that and then started training with like my teammates essentially. Two other of my teammates, Elena Bushma and Margot Prow, who's a freshman, also joined me. And we just kind of like became this little trio and we just like push each other to just train and like we have this goal now, like this is what we have to focus on. And yeah, it was I think my expectations going into the event, I wanted to like do my best. Like I was seeded 4, so I was like, okay, like let's at least do my seeding. Let's go to the semifinals. But I was kind of like in the back of my head, I was like, I've been training a lot since COVID. Like I did take initially like some time off, but the last like 6 to 8 months have been a lot of intense training. And I was like, okay, like if you have this opportunity, like you have to use it. Obviously, because we don't know when the next, I mean, we do know when the next one is. There's another one scheduled for June, but I may be going home. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to play. But I was like, okay, this is your chance. So yeah, it was just kind of trusting all the training that I've been doing the past like 8 months, essentially.
Yeah, and that's a really mature approach to, just going full out and wholeheartedly investing in this, which I know a little bit enough about you to know that that's the way you approach daily life. So again, just congratulations. I'm sure that was definitely a little bit of the hard work has paid off and I can actually see it now. It's a tangible thing that I've achieved, and a lot of people are really struggling right now during COVID with loss of motivation and not having access to court. So talk a little bit about the mental aspect of your game and how that has sort of fluctuated or how you've had to do even more work because of the circumstances that you're in.
I mean, the mental aspect is like so important for me to just perform. I think like I always tell myself like, yeah, if I'm fitter, I can like rely on that more. But it's just for me, it has to be like my mental state has to be like in a good place. And yeah, no, initially I had like no motivation. I'm not gonna lie. This time last year, I wasn't even playing. I wasn't really even like moving. I was just like, I don't want to play squash. Like thank you. Like college, like the fact that the freshman year taught me a lot about myself, and I was like, okay, you need to, in a way, prioritize yourself more than you did last year. Although, like squash is an individual sport, and playing college squash made me realize how you can forget about that almost. But yeah, mentally, it's just been kind of like you need I don't know. I'm not sure actually. Like I was in a real lull at the beginning, like before summer. And then I went to Egypt in the summer. That really helped me. I started working with Ahmed Efat, and he like kind of like brought my belief in myself back to me. And then I started working really hard, kind of just like, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure how like I did it, but it was kind of just like getting myself into a routine and like kind of trusting that the work that I'm doing right now is gonna pay off. And in Philly, it was a bit different as well because we couldn't really hear with our coaches, like with John or Dylan. So it was tricky at the beginning, but I don't know. Once you get into a routine, it's a lot easier, at least for me.
And also
And like
finding,
having my
right?
teammates.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, finding those people to be with you and to train with you, I'm sure has helped as well.
For sure. Like the boys as well, and just pushing me. And like we would do frequent like pod tournaments at the racket club. So Amanda and Sabrina would also join. And it's just like a little bit of like competitiveness as well. And it just kind of all of us would egg each other on and push each other. So that really helped.
Yeah. So, Karina, let's talk a little bit about your college squash experience. And you are at Drexel, an amazing institution, really high level academics and high level squash as well. You had a stellar junior career and obviously made the decision to come over to the US. Talk us through that process of deciding to play college squash. I'm sure in the back of your mind, maybe there was a thought of going pro immediately or maybe not. But what was your process getting to Drexel?
Well, I think the first time like I even really heard about college squash and like studying in the US was when I was about maybe 16 or 15. And like one of the college recruiters like came up to me and like asked me after the tournament, like, would you be interested? And I never really gave it much thought because I mean I wanted to go to uni, but I wasn't really looking at the US. Like at that time it didn't seem tangible. But then I think I came in. I think Gina Kennedy. She went to Harvard, and then she also did like a year out. And my mum and I, we like questioned, like basically asked her like, what, like, how's that? How was the process? And she was kind of like, well, I want to go pro, but these 4 years, like, it's kind of hard to say no, and like it's something different. And then I kind of like looked at it myself because I did want to give myself a shot. Like I did want to take a year out. So and I did that, and see like what the life is like on tour because I know it's great. I'm at the top level, but like the beginnings, it's not always easy. And I wanted to see if I could actually do it. If I could actually do it. And in my year out, after I finished school, I hit top 100, I think, which was like so huge for me. I was like, wow, like, okay, like this is a stepping stone now. And then I was kind of glad that I went to college. And then I decided to go to college. And I think actually it was Theo Woodward at the time who approached me. So my coach was Ian Thomas at the time as well. And Theo went to Millfield, and then that's how we kind of he got in contact with me. So yeah, it was just like a couple calls, a couple emails, and here I am. But yeah, no, I'm glad that I took a year out, and I'm also glad that I came to college because it's honestly like the best fusion of both like squash and uni, in my opinion. Like I don't think I would be playing this much squash if I went to uni in the UK, for example. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just a testament to college squash growing in general. More and more really elite level student athletes coming over to the US or even in the US already and going to these top institutions. So you stepped right into that number one position at Drexel, a top 5 team in the country. That's a lot of pressure on your shoulders, especially as a freshman. Do you feel like the fact that you took a year off prepared you for that role and stepping into that, or not at all? I get from your expression, definitely not.
First of all, my first college squash match, I Can I swear or no? Is that not? Oh, no.
Sure, why not?
I was shitting myself. Like I was so nervous. I've never been nervous for a squash match. Not since I was maybe like 9 or 10. And it was just like I was like, whoa, this is so much pressure. Like, oh my God. Like I don't know. I got into it. Obviously, you have to kind of, and I'm also so competitive. I hate losing. So, but yeah, no, it did in a way that I was like, okay, I know how to train, kind of thing. Like I know how my body reacts to certain things, and I know what's good like for a squash player. But in terms of like like team dynamics, working with new people, team stuff, because I mean
Yeah.
you don't really play in a team, not in Europe at least, like apart from like maybe European teams, or like you don't really do that though. It's not really as common. So I think a lot of things I just had to learn. And yeah, there was a lot of pressure playing one, I think. But for me, I think it helped me now to realize like how now I realize how important it was to have that year, and how lucky I am to actually have had that year. So yeah,
Do you remember
positive.
who your first match was against?
It was just Davies, who's like one of my
Okay.
best friends here. And also, yeah, like Penn Drexel, like the rivalry, like it was really heavy for me. I don't know, I was really nervous. Yeah.
What a first match just to be thrown in there and really get the true college squash experience. But you now got a year under your belt, and so I'm sure towards the end of the season was a little bit of a relief to make it through and have such a successful season as well. And obviously you played some really tough matches at that number one position. But you spoke a little bit earlier about having a little tough first year. Talk us through how you've handled some of those obstacles and how you're able to find a balance between your academics as well as your elite level of squash.
Well, like I think it was honestly winter term, which is still like one of the hardest terms for me, like academically and squash wise. It's always like January through like March, beginning of March is always a tough time for me, because I'm like this it's it's winter, it's cold, like you don't really have motivation to train. We had 8 a.m. practices every day.
Wow.
I'm not a morning person, so it was a lot to like for me. Like it was just because then assignments, you would stay up a little bit later than you should.
Yeah.
As a freshman, you're kind of like in a dorm as well. You're sharing a room. Like that was an adjustment for me because I've never really shared a room before. And I was also living with my team, which is good. I think some people can do it, but for me, I just needed like that little space. And I think sharing a room was hot. Like that's what I found tough, at least.
Mhm.
And like I'm somebody who likes to work in my own space, like in my room. And that was just tough because your roommates could be doing anything else. I don't know. It was just a big adjustment for me. It was kind of like, okay, you have to adjust right now. But I've also like I sometimes you just can't live with your team.
Yeah.
I know some girls still live together. That's completely fine, but I just couldn't. In a lot of ways, I just needed my own space, and so this year I'm living by myself. But yeah, another thing was the 8 a.m.s. Like I just couldn't I couldn't practice at 8 a.m. There was no way. I can't even think about 8 a.m. now, because then you'd rush, and then I had the 10 a.m. class, and then I'd have to rush to my class because it was in person. Oh my gosh, it was just a lot going on. And towards the end, I definitely felt burnout, like towards that week before nationals, team
Mhm.
nationals. Oof, I just remember being exhausted. Like I was like, I have no fuel in the tank. And like my nationals weren't the best, to be honest. I did choke a little bit, but I did kind of, for individuals it was better, and I'm glad that like I had individuals right after to like give me that push, or like at least I mean I've lost at tournaments for like second round, so I've always played like many times, not always, but I always played like 9 to 12 position or 9-16 position. And that getting over that loss and then playing again the next day, I think that's the hardest thing to do. And that's kind of what I had to do from like team nationals to individuals. And yeah.
I mean, I love your honesty. I think so often we just hear about the effortless side of doing it, you know, of doing this whole experience, and no one really talks about the adjustments. I'm with you. I had a really hard first year, and it was really challenging for a lot of reasons, but that's so far back in my mind because I don't want to think about it. Right.
And me too.
About it. It's like, absolutely. Like, we don't share rooms with someone back at home. Like, we don't have to go, you know, I mean, for me, I am a very morning person, so I don't mind the early practices. But like, if you're used to a routine, you know, you're not used to sharing rooms with that many girls, and then also enough to realize that it's something that like we need to talk more about, right? It isn't always sunshine and roses.
For sure, especially winter term. In my opinion, that was what was like it was a hard point, and then I kind of like recovered. I mean, then COVID hit, to be honest, but fall term was a lot better. But it was just an adjustment. And I've spoken to other people who have gone through college, and they sometimes admit that, but I'm just like, well, this is my experience. And but there's other, I think, like, you can always, I was also a really big year coming into Drexel. There was 6 girls, 6 boys, like 12 of us. Like, this is a big grade. So like this year's freshman, there's only 3 girls and 2 boys. So, you know, we were also like half the team basically. So it was a lot of dynamics that were going on, and yeah, I think we're all better for it now.
Absolutely. And nothing that sort of makes you tougher going through some of those obstacles, and then being in a completely new country. Talk a little bit about that, being an international student in the US, what your experience has been so far.
So far it's been good. I did lose my accent big time. It's just because people
pick up on that American twang. I'm telling you.
I did. Oh my gosh. It's so because people wouldn't really understand me at first. Like, because I would speak really fast and really British accent. So much so. And then it just kind of fizzled out because I just got lazy. I didn't want to repeat myself. But honestly, it's been good. I think in Philly and like with our team, it's very international. So we all kind of like we really understand each other on like a different level. And with squash as well. But honestly, I've really enjoyed it, the international side of it. And then people always love to ask questions, and I'm like, okay, let's have this conversation. I think that's what I've really enjoyed in the US. People are a lot easier to have like just a simple conversation with than back home or in the UK. So
they're genuinely interested in who you are and where you come from, and they want to learn and want to know. So yeah, it's okay. I've been mocked so many times whenever I go home about my American accent, and
my friends in like from England, they're the ones that are like, you know, don't speak to me like that. Or I the other time it was really embarrassing. I said pants instead of trousers or jeans, and my friend was like, "What do you mean your pants?" Oh.
It's the best of us. It's okay. You still got a number of years in the US, so your accent is only going to continue to grow.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
What is Karina, what is the Drexel squash culture like, and how has Coach John White contributed towards your success as a player and also as a person?
I mean, I think we all merge really well. I think it's a very international team, like in comparison to other teams in college squash. And John likes that because he himself is, you know, not from the US. And yeah, like I think it's interesting with the women's team because both Dylan and John are men, so but they've done a really good job at like getting us to a point where we're good. And I don't know, like there's a lot of jokes that go around. There's a lot of jokes, and it's very free and loose. So that's kind of what I don't want a very serious. I mean, I personally don't like when it's too serious or like the atmosphere. So as long as it's good and there's no tension, that's all I want, really. But yeah.
And you're still
I like the fact
done and have a laugh on the side, right? Like
yeah, for sure. Like he can be shouting at me 1 minute and then I'll come off court and we'll have a joke. Like I don't think I'm at that stage where I'm just like so zoned in. I mean, I don't practice at 8 a.m. anymore, so I can actually zone in. I'm actually awake enough to zone in, but yeah, that's kind of, and now they've been recruiting really well as well, and I'm excited to see the girls, for next year as well.
That's great. Tell us what your favorite team memory, either bus ride or match or practice. What's your favorite memory that sticks out?
Oh my gosh, wait, I need to think about this.
It's okay. I'm sure there's a whole bank of them that we need to address. I'm sure John White makes it very interesting most of the time. So I would hope that he's the center of one of these stories.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. I'm really trying to think. Because we didn't have too many bus rides last year. That's because we mainly played at home. Honestly, when we had one of our first weekends was Stanford, Columbia, Princeton in a weekend. Wow. And when we beat Columbia, because the day before we beat Stanford 5-4 and then we beat Columbia 5-4, so it was huge, and then we got 5 in the country. So I think there's a picture, and they post it all the time. I love it, where we're like jumping and hugging each other. Like I think that's like one of my favorite memories. Just like making history with my team, like that's amazing. That feels good.
That's amazing. That's a great memory, and I'm sure will last for a while. What about your biggest win that you had last season? What was the biggest win that maybe you were expecting, but also that was a big win for the team too?
I think it was Elena Waganon's Stanford. I think that was the biggest one. I'm trying to think, because that gave us the win. That was like the clutch match, which felt even more special. But the funny thing was I didn't realize it was 4-all. I didn't realize, and I was just like, in my match, I was like, we've lost. Like I better win now, you know. I don't want to. I hate losing, so I think that one, but also I'm trying to think. I think, like personally, I mean, there's a loss that I remember very clearly, and that's against Lucy Beecroft. We went to 5, and it was a really good match, and that's one thing that really bothers me. But I think what Elena Wagon's was like the biggest one, I think.
Are you the kind of person who wants to be told it's 4-all, or you'd rather not know?
No, I'd rather them not tell me. Okay. But actually, also another win that was really big was against Zoe, just personally, because that was
you, right?
Zoe Fu, yeah. I mean, I love her. I love that girl, and she's such a fair person on court. And I had come off from I played a PSA in Philly actually just before we played George Washington on the weekend, and I was like super tired. I was like a bit ill, bit tired, and we went to 5 again. Like it was such a close match. It really could have gone either way, and I think for me it was like that was like the moment, and I was like, okay, like I can actually do this kind of thing. I was like, okay, squash is going well. Yeah.
And the team aspect. So you spoke a little bit earlier about not really being used to playing in such a big team, especially, right? Top 9 girls play and compete, whereas at Europeans or in league, it's usually like 5 or 4 people who play and compete. So what do you love about the team aspect of squash?
I just love how there's always somebody cheering your name, whether that's me cheering for somebody else or whether they're cheering for me. I think I love that we get to compete together and we just get to like spend that time together. Because I mean, since I was like 17, I would travel to tournaments by myself most of the time. So I didn't even have a coach, you know. So it was a big thing for me to have to come off court, shake the ref's hand, and then like give like 20 people high fives. I think that was the biggest thing for me. But it was also such a new thing for me because after a loss, you know, I just want to go and hide. So that's a lovely thing about college squash.
And now you have a fan base too, right? So like, I'm sure you got a ton of messages from your teammates when you won the Texas Open, right? There's like a whole nother group of people that just are rooting for you every step of the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, also we got really lucky with having a lot of the matches last year at our courts essentially. So a lot of the alumni or even other teams, like other teams at Drexel, they came to watch, and that's also huge, I think.
Absolutely. That holistic approach to college and college squash as well, supporting each other. I have to talk about this year. Obviously, has not been the ideal sophomore year and year in general for a lot of people, and also obviously for college squash. So talk about some of the policies that Drexel put in place. Were you guys hybrid? You mentioned that you were remote in the fall. What did Drexel do for this academic year? And then also, have you guys now been able to start practicing together as a team or not?
So Drexel's been online since finals week, winter term last year. So pretty much, I know that for graduate students, and I know that for certain schools like the medical school and the law school, maybe they have more hybrid courses, but generally undergraduate is online. Only in the winter this year they've like put on more hybrid classes, and I think that's what they're trying to do for the summer. But right now, all my classes are online. Whether that's asynchronous or synchronous, they're all online. But sorry, what was the other side of the question?
With regards to squash, have you been able, you mentioned that you were at the racket club, but are you now able to train together as a team?
So we have started to train literally last week. So when I came back from they started during tech when I went to Texas. So it's been 2 weeks now. We're in phase 2. We're hitting partnered exercises, which is to be honest, I don't mind, because I'm like, okay, I'm in this phase now where I need to figure out what I actually need to do in terms of my training. So, and also just being down at the courts is just amazing for me, to have access. So we've done that, and we're in pods, and we train 3 times a week right now. And hopefully, I think we'll continue this for a couple of weeks, and then there's a different phase. I'm not quite sure on the details, but yeah, we weren't able to practice in the winter or the fall because our facility is essentially like a joint facility with basketball and wrestling and other sports, swimming as well. So it was, and we don't have a season. So for Drexel, it was kind of like a reason for us not to practice, because we could have, but then logistically it was difficult because of the time. And then there was an issue about airflow because our courts are like in the basement, which was frustrating at the time, I have to say, because I came back to Philly expecting to be able to play in like 2 weeks, you know, but it was like a month. But the racket club did extend like memberships for us, so most of us got their membership, and that's been huge. I think that was the biggest thing for us, and that even, I think, in a way brought us closer together, at least for me, with some of my teammates. Yeah. Gave us more time and a place to train.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, it's so easy to focus on the negative. And I find myself doing this as well. I'm constantly thinking about what COVID has taken away from me. And you get into a little bit of a rut. And especially at such a young age, like you're having to deal with so much already. But what's one thing do you feel like has been a positive light or a blessing or just a realization that has made you stop and think a little bit about yourself and something positive that has come out of this time and situation that we've all been in?
I think all in all, it wasn't I wasn't in the best place mentally nor or physically last year this time. I had a few injuries and I wasn't really sure about whether I wanted to go pro and whether I should in a lot of ways. And I think that this year just gave me the time to kind of be like, okay, like you have to realize what you want to do. You have this time now. You don't know when this will be over. So right now, just like look at the positives. You can play squash, which many of my teammates couldn't even play squash when they like the courts opened up in May in Poland, so I was able to play since May, which is huge. Like some of my teammates only just now came back on court, so um I was feeling very lucky about that. And then as the year progressed, I was kind of like, okay, like this is your time to just get better. Like don't focus, there's no tournaments, there's no goals like there was before that you could test yourself, you know. But your goal is just to get better at squash, like just get better. And I think I'm not somebody who can think that broadly usually. So giving myself there's just this time and space to just like focus on that was huge. And I don't think I would have gotten that with COVID ever if it didn't happen, because I would have just been in this cycle of just like life to be honest. But yeah, so I'm grateful for that. But I agree, it can be so you can just go into a cycle of just negativity, which just doesn't help in the long run. But yeah, that's my positive outtake. And now I believe in myself more so, and I can see myself going pro after college for sure.
That's amazing. As you should.
Yeah.
I mean, I will confess I've been a big fan of yours for a couple of years now and have really enjoyed watching your success on court and following what you've been able to do, from winning European juniors to then obviously making the decision to come over to the US. And I saw you play live for the first time at the individual championships last year, and it was a treat of a match to watch. Your determination and will to win is really inspiring. So you definitely should have that self-belief.
Thank you so much.
So what's the plan for this summer and for the rest of the school year?
Yeah, so I'm doing summer school this year because Drexel has a co-op program that I'm in. So for the next as a junior, I'm going to be during this time, spring and summer, I'll be essentially working a job, which is a great, by the way, thing about Drexel. So I'll have
in the US doing that.
I'm hopefully. I mean, I don't think it has to be, but I kind of would want it to be in the US, just because I'm not sure if I'll be able to stay here after I graduate. So I'd rather make the most of my visa. So I'm doing summer school. The national center is opening, and I'm actually working a junior tournament this weekend, which is super exciting. I'm very excited to see the courts and the facility. Yeah, also that's super lucky that we have this so close to us. And then there's a few. So I'm definitely going home in June for nationals. And there's also a 5K world qualifier event in Denmark that I'm planning to play as well in June. Hopefully, fingers crossed I win it, but we'll see. I'm just excited to play another PSA. Yeah. And then I just actually looked at the calendar, and there's a 20K in July, end of June, July, in the US. So I may come back. But the plan was to go back to Egypt and continue training with Ahmed and continue just, summer training. But yeah.
Sounds like
Yeah.
a jam-packed summer and an exciting one as well. Did you think, so if this was a normal year, right? COVID didn't hit, nothing.
Hmm.
Had you already planned on playing a number of professional tournaments while you were in college, or did this,
Yes.
okay. Tell us about that
Yeah.
process.
So
That's what makes,
actually, like,
right? Like not
sorry,
every college, I said that's what makes squash unique, is that not every college athlete can play professionally and still be a college athlete, but in squash you can.
yeah, which is amazing. I'm very grateful for that. I was actually in Regina, Canada when like this whole, well, like the pandemic happened. And then I was actually planning to play two more tournaments, like one in Bermuda, sad times, and one in Boston. Yeah, I know. And I didn't go to Bermuda, but I went to Regina, and I had a great time. But yeah, I was planning to so play those two events, and then there was one in Virginia in like April that I was planning to do. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking also to maybe go to Australia during the summer, but like last summer.
Yeah.
But then again, it didn't really work out that way. But it's okay. I'm content right now with where I'm at. I'm just happy to have played a tournament, honestly. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge that I played a tournament and I won it. That was amazing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know when we were texting to set this up, there was a little bit of like, well, I've been playing, so I need to catch up on schoolwork. How is all of that going? And being able to balance going away for like a whole week and missing classes and now having to catch up.
It was more about, I mean, so I mean, I've scheduled my week so that Monday I have classes Monday to Thursday, so I have Friday off usually. So that just gives me more time to just like, if I need it, which I usually do, just to sit down on Friday and just get my work done. But yeah, no, I think I kind of checked out after Thursday. Like I was like, okay, like I'm in the semifinal, like I need to prepare. And I just kind of checked out, which wasn't the best thing to do, but it was only week 2. Now we're in week 4, so it's a bit more serious now. But it was luckily not too late to catch up, so I got that done. But yeah, no, I was winning, so I was like, okay, like just focus on the win, just focus on not win, but focus on playing, because I feel like sometimes the schoolwork can distract me in a way. But yeah.
Right. Not like you're not just focusing on squash and winning a tournament. You also probably have assignments to worry about and tests and exams and all of that other outside factors that that most people wouldn't have to worry about if they were playing in a professional tournament, right?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that like when I was flying back on Sunday, I was like doing work because I was like, okay, I need to do something on my way back home. Yeah, but it's okay. My oh my gosh, my professors were very understanding, and luckily they congratulated me, so that's great.
You came
Yeah,
back with the win then.
yeah.
It's like,
Like, okay,
it was all worth it. It was all worth it. That's excellent.
exactly.
Karina,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for young athletes who are looking at pursuing college squash and, you know, incoming first year students as well? What would be your words to them about the experience and how best to utilize everything they have?
I'd say, like, give yourself like, sorry. Be a bit patient at the beginning, like give everybody a chance. I think everything, because it's not just the squash team, it's not just, you know, like the athletics part of it, there's also a lot of school, and you know, like genuinely find out what you want to do and like what you're interested in, because also it's easier to go to class when you're interested in something and participate and so on. And honestly, just enjoy it. Like it's a great time, and you can meet friends for life. I'm sure I've made some friends for life here. So yeah, and just enjoy it and work hard as well. Work hard. Work hard during the week. You know, I mean during season, work hard the whole time. But yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's great. And we have to give your mom a shout out too. I know she'll be listening to this. I messaged her earlier today to tell her that I was having a conversation with you. So I'm sure she'll be our first view on this interview. So definitely a shout out to mom over there, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't really be here without her. And half the world knows her before they even know me. So it's okay. I mean, the squash world, at least, you know. They're like, "Are you Rosanna's daughter?" I'm like, yeah. It's okay though. I love her. She's also somebody that like I appreciate because she's such a fan of the sport. That when I'm like, oh, squash, oh, she's like, come on, like enjoy it. Like I can see how much joy it gives her to watch it, and I want her to enjoy me playing. But actually, when I play, she gets too nervous. So we've got to work on that.
Came through.
Yeah. She's like, yeah.
I love it. Well, we're definitely lucky to have you and her and really be a part of the squash community and just wish you everything of the best for what's remaining in your academic year this year. I know it's been challenging, but and also your squash to continue to thrive and to love the sport. And we'll be watching, and I'll be watching closely as you continue to climb up the ranks. And I'm really excited for your future, Karina.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Thank you for making the time. Thank you for making the time today. I'm sure your Drexel teammates will enjoy listening to this, as well as other fans of yours around the world. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.